Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. and the United States as we look around the globe for those 1,000 best practices in over 144 different nations. How we're going to take care of a planet of 9 billion people by 2050 is part of the discussion we're going to be having. And this gentleman is going to be acquainting us with many issues and also the enhancements to infrastructure and also leadership development in the continent of Africa. This is Georges Kochu, is the president and founder of what's called Seal of Hope, Inc. And Georges, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Anyway, tell us a little bit about this organization, Seal of Hope.
In fact, Seal of Hope is a 501c3 organization based in Maryland. Our mission is to break the technological apartheid between the West and Africa. Doing that, we have set different programs in place, and one of them being providing free healthcare to people in Africa, in area where we know people will never have doctors. Is also to set some community center training where we can train these African people to be ready to face the new world that is coming to them. Because when you go to Africa now, it's like they are living in the 20th century, while we are in the 21st century here.
So when you're looking at the people there, and we have this great slide, I know this is something that you've been doing as far as trying to bring clean drinking water to the area, as well as health care and other kinds of things. So looking at all of this, why would someone with a very distinguished business background want to establish a nonprofit?
Before we established a nonprofit, we went around and looked at what we can do to reach as many as possible. And we realized...
This is the citizens across the different countries of Africa that you're dealing with.
Let's say if I start politics, I say I want to be a politician in Benin. I won't be able to impact somebody in Mali, for example, or Guinea, or Togo. So, it's not the right way to go. As a non-profit, a 501c3, I can be able to collect or tap in resources in the U.S. and be able to implement this kind of vision in different countries. Because the goal is not seeing Africa as many countries.
In other words, not like the 54 countries and divided.
Exactly. It's to see Africa as one, where people have the same issue all over the continent. So the best way to reach them is to go through a non-profit, where people don't have to put too much roadblock to let you access to the citizens.
Yeah, I think that's very important, because when you start involving yourself in politics, it really puts barriers with just about everyone, and half the people are going to think, why is this guy here? And so it really is a barrier, and so going through the nonprofit makes perfect sense.
And also if you start a for-profit, people know that, okay, you come here to make money on them, so they really don't believe in what you think is good for them. As non-profit, you try to prepare the ground for businesses to come and use the people in the best way they can.
And what you want to do is actually to involve them, bring solutions, and allow them, as you and I have discussed, to be part of the solutions that you're bringing in these countries, correct?
Yes, not only being part of the solution, but also support the government in many issues, like clean water. We cannot build the pipeline for water to go through houses, but we can help where there is no pipeline. We can support the government effort to bring energy where they don't have energy. but we are not there to do the work at the place. We are there to support them as a complementary structure to support what they are doing right now. We will not be in any conflict of interest with them. Rather, we are there to support them and make sure that what they are doing is more efficient in the people's life.
Yeah, and the whole thing about it is really to complement what's there. And of course, so many people in Africa, you know, some people say it's half the population, others say it's 2/3, which is, you know, about 850 plus million on the continent that don't really have access to the grid, whether it's water or sanitation or electricity, whatever it may be.
They cannot have access right now the way the continent is built and the way they have all the infrastructure. You know, Africa was under colonization until 1960s for
Right.
most of them.
Exactly.
And the structure that they have then, for most of them, nothing is renewed as of today. Mm-hmm. They try to do like a patch in some places, but the truth is they need to change the structure. And how to do that? Anytime a country start doing something, they have other issue. Most of the time they will leave it there and continue doing something else. But people keep growing.
Well, you
soon
still keep adding population.
Yeah, soon we're going to be 1 billion. And
Yeah.
1 billion with which resources? That's the question. Water will be a key in this fight coming up. For people to reach clean water, it's going to be a serious problem. Mm-hmm. And with the solution that we brought up with the portable machine, we think this can solve in some ways the problem. Because people in places really far from the capital city, for example, they have nothing from the grid, but they need to drink the clean water.
Yeah, yeah. And also, too, is even if you're in the capital city, many of these small communities are not on the grid either.
Exactly.
And do not have access. So, you know, being in a what they call distributed model, where you have people producing, in essence, their own water, their own energy, even their own food within their own local communities, which really harkens back to traditional times.
And that's why your platform is really important. It gives the opportunity to people to come up with ideas and technology that can change people's life without big money. Let's say with this machine, we can create...
This is the water filtration machine, yes. Okay.
Life around an area without billions. Mm-hmm. And let's say if we go to other side, like using solar panel, for example, people can have life in these villages. The people will stay, and economic will revamp, and people work, and they don't have to leave their family behind and go put more burden on cities where the management is in trouble right now. Right. Many of them.
Yeah, well, many of the local communities, as you know, in the agricultural areas, it's the very old and the very young. And many of the in-between, the educated class, are actually in the urban areas, as you were saying, Georges. And so by being able to have their own renewable energy, being able to create their own water, deal with their own sanitation, food production, it really does bring a renewed quality of life into the more rural areas, or even the smaller communities surrounding the capital cities.
Exactly. This is one of our goals, to bring young folks back to the village. Mm-hmm. Everybody cannot live in city. And they are trying to live in city without having the background to live in city. And they are cut from the village. I'll give an example. In Cameroon, when we were going through different villages and cities doing the water drop, I realized something that shocked me a little bit. Most of the people that are farming are women. Where are the men? They went to city.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is not normal, because they need to keep life in the villages and keep producing for people in the city. The day everybody will leave villages, who's going to produce for the city? While they have land, a very fertile land, mm-hmm. nobody can use them. So we need to bring life back to the villages and try to balance the the country's life the way it was before. And to do that, you need electricity, you need clean water, you need opportunity. You need to give these people what they can have in city. Like when you have these community centers of training in IT, for example, where people can refurbish the computer, build them in network, secure them. This will give them a hope for tomorrow. And they don't need to go to city. You can reach anybody in places like Parakou in Benin or Mbalmayo in Cameroon without going there. You have internet. That's what we want to do. We want to bring this thing in this small area so people can live without having to run all over the place.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. This is something I've been traveling on the African continent since 1975 was the first time I was there. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we were looking at the emerging technologies at that time. And of course, it's expanded way beyond that. Looking at this expose that you're doing out in this particular community, you're talking about malaria eradication, malaria control with the SkinTex MR3 blankets. Tell us a little bit about that. What are we seeing here with these blankets and all this gathering of people?
Yeah.
And we only have about a minute and a half, so you got to be quick.
At the last trip, when we went to Africa, the goal was to try the skin test. So we did it in different parts of Cameroon, and the result was amazing. People came back and said, "We want this one. We need it." I said, "Okay." When I got to Benin, I went to a village called Gizin in the south of Benin. Then we tried this one on some small people. Then at our surprise, people came more than we expected. So the stock that we have was not enough. And they were truly happy. And some of them are saying, "Okay, I'll give up mine, give it to the kids."
That's fantastic. George, we only have just a few seconds left. What do you see the Seal of Hope being in about 5, 10, 15 years?
5 years, our goal is to have more than 200 people trained in each country that we are touching in IT and being able to bring water to everywhere.
That's fantastic. This is Georges Kochu, who is the president and founder of Seal of Hope Inc., working in Benin, Togo, and Cameroon. And thank you for being with us as we're looking at the challenges, but also the solutions and best practices as we look around the continent of Africa to create the Emerald Planet. Good job, buddy.
Too
Fantastic.
many women
You
get
just
hit
stay right
by their
there.
boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing. No. 127 consecutive.
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who's looking specifically in the central part of Africa and Benin, Togo, and Cameroon, but also the whole continent of Africa. This is George Kochu, who is the president and founder of Seal of Hope. And George, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.
Glad to have you out with us. And congratulations on this recent tour that you had in the 3 countries I just listed and in Africa. That was really an exciting trip for you.
Oh yes, it was truly amazing, and we had the opportunity to experience what many won't experience, and people will be talking as experts of Africa, but they really don't know what it's about for sure. So going through these 3 countries, you can appreciate what means help for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what does the Seal of Hope actually mean? It's a very nice name, but what does it mean?
As you see the name, Seal of Hope. Hope is what we are here to bring. When you look at our logo, you see the world surrounded by kids hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And that's the sign. When we are united around a goal, it's possible to have solution.
And to do anything.
Yeah.
Well, we met at the African Union, and we were there on this issue of Ebola and the work that you're doing as far as these countries that have the Ebola. But, you know, looking at the Seal of Hope and the special vision that you have, what are some of the things that you really want to achieve out of the Seal of Hope? You know, that goes beyond, you know, malaria, Ebola, and all these different issues.
For example, we want to tackle the agriculture issue by training our farmers with new technology, new ways of growing crop without using too much people, without using too much energy. This is a big goal that we have. In the next year, we're going to start working on that seriously. The other goal is to help villages build a kind of autonomy from the general system, from energy side, water side, and school technology.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully sanitation and
wastewater
processing.
It comes to that. And the main point in all this is to be like the African Union say we are the 6th region. The diaspora is the 6th region of Africa. We want truly them to mean it, to bring us to the table to discuss the future of Africa, to discuss with us where they want to go 20 years from now, 50 years from now. It's not just saying we are the 6th region, but they need to work with us. Mm-hmm. At the country level, as well as an organization, regional organization level, and the African Union itself level.
Yeah, because there's a tremendous diaspora from all 54 countries of the African continent in the United States and actually around the globe.
Yeah.
So it's not just the United States, but it's France, it's Belgium, it's the United Kingdom. You know, it's all these different nations that have this energy, this brain trust that was created, fostered, much of it, you know, on the African continent, and now it's around the globe. So looking at that, how do you think that you can use the Seal of Hope to bring this new dynamic, this new energy, and the resources into the African continent so that the countries actually continue? Because the continent is actually moving forward.
For example, it's not a secret. People call me from around the world about what we're doing and how they can get involved or how they can start organization in the country. I give them my advice. Also, I ask them, you guys can join us, and we're going to give you the opportunity to use Seal of Hope and move your project or vision forward if you want to. But the goal here is to wake Africans up and to do something great for the continent. Because I say something all the time to people that I meet, which is all races around the world, they travel. They went to different continents, but they developed their own place, where they came from.
Right.
But Africans have the speciality, the particularity of not doing that for the homeland. I think now we have to shift the way of thinking and develop Africa now. Move Africa forward. And move Africa forward by African with the help of our partners. People like you, people like many others that we know, they want to help, but we need to give them the platform. For example, like why we started the program for free healthcare periodically in Africa. We want to do that because doctors from Belgium and France, I met them in 2012, they told me, we want to give back to Africa. We think we owe Africa. I say, okay, so what are you going to do now? They say, give us the opportunity to do so. I say, I will give you. Now we have Seal of Hope. Let's come and work together. They say, every year we can give you 2 to 3 weeks to go to the continent and take care of the people. This is very good. They didn't say, we're going to come and do it. They say, give us the opportunity. Right. Now they have the opportunity.
And collaborate and work together.
Exactly.
Well, you know, by the WHO, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, they say that a child in the African continent every 30 seconds dies from malaria and other types of tropical disease, but specifically malaria. So the time of this actual broadcast, 60 children are no longer going to be among us on the planet. So what needs to be done in addressing this scourge that attacks, virtually every country on the African continent? And how is, through the Seal of Hope, are you actually addressing that, or what maybe you're planning in order to do for the future?
Right now you see WTO, they have the program on malaria for Africa. We cannot go beyond that. But what we can do, like using skin tests to support the effort of the government, why they have the vaccine for people. People will be dying if nothing is done. But I think malaria is still there for many decades already, but nothing has changed for real.
If anything, it's getting worse.
Exactly. And malaria kills more than Ebola, more than even AIDS. Malaria kills more than that. So we think instead of putting a mosquito net only for people to sleep at night, not getting malaria, they need to change that and give the opportunity to people to be protected wherever they are, daytime or nighttime, by adding skin tests, for example.
Yeah, and it's the only one on the planet that actually kills the mosquitoes and any blood-sucking insects, so it's very, very important. Looking at your other initiative, I know you want to reduce the need for energy among the farmers around all of Africa, not just the 3 countries you're working in, but you're really focused on renewable, like solar, wind, and other types of renewable energy. So tell us a little bit about that, and what do you see for the future of using renewables outside of the areas that, very particular areas served by the national grid?
Africa is the unique continent in the world that is blessed by sun. And we have not been using it for what it should. So this is the time to use solar system as we never done before, because the energy crisis is at its highest level. Africa is more than 3 times the size of the United States. But we don't use this space, at least, to put solar panels, to generate energy, to rebound our economy and make money. This is not done. We need to do it. Solar panel, people are saying solar panel is like too expensive. We cannot spend more in it. I say, okay, the upfront cost is expensive. That's true. But looking at it, over time, it becomes cheaper than what we have right now. And
plus, you actually have access to the energy immediately when you're installing the system.
That's why we are trying to bring companies that will at least put together a solar panel assembly line in Africa. Since we have everything there to do the testing and to try what is made. So instead of importing, we want the company to settle down in Africa and produce panel for Africans.
So looking at the work that you're doing, I know it's absolutely amazing, all the different things that you're touching, going to education, healthcare, of course, the malaria abatement, working on agricultural production for foodstuffs. But how green are the various initiatives that you're bringing to the African continent?
So far, everything that we brought is green. Using the skin test, it has nothing against the environment, first. Looking at the water purification machine that is provided by ANSA Technology, is green in the sense that if you look at the consumption in diesel of this machine is too low. And more than that, the next machine that we are bringing, for example, we have this program with the Millennium Challenge Corporation for Benin to use solar panel to run this machine.
Right.
So our focus is on the green side because right now you are having floods in Africa as never before. Why? Because human beings are misusing the planet, and cities are growing without plan. So when water comes, water have nowhere to go, and what happens? We have flood, and they are cutting trees all the time. It's less greener than it used to be. We need to make sure it's getting greener than going the other way.
Mm-hmm. Looking at, just like every time we get together and chat, we never have enough time, George, so thank you for sharing all this information about the three countries you're focused on specifically, Togo, Benin, and Cameroon, but also the continent itself. But we have about 30 seconds left, and what do you see for the growth of the Seal of Hope over the next 5, 10, 15 years in the green space and also addressing other critical issues?
In the green space, we're going to continue doing what we are doing at a larger scale, like bringing more machine and try to get the funding for more skin tests, more water purification system, solar panel, and train more people to get in the IT system. But after that, I think for myself, by 15 years, I won't be running. Maybe one of the women that is in my group will be running Seal of Hope. I'll be doing something else.
That's absolutely fantastic. This is George Kochu, who is the president and founder of Seal of Hope. And thank you for being with us as we're talking about the African continent as we create the Emerald Planet.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about rigged out right. Nothing very nice. Holy fire. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Yeah.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water.
At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site.
That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff.
You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you looking at those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move towards 2050. We'll then have a planet of some 9 billion people, and how are we going to be able to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, the basic infrastructure, water, sanitation, education, healthcare, all the things that's needed in order to enhance the quality of life and not to just exist on planet Earth. And I have someone sitting right beside me who's been working a number of years on this very project to make sure that things are going well on the continent of Africa, specifically the country of Tanzania. And this is Kimberly L. Fogg. She is the president and founder of what's called Global Sustainable Partnerships. That's a very powerful name that you have there, Kimberly. And thank you and welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Wow, Dr. Sam, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. You're doing really good things. Tell us a little bit about Global Sustainable Partnerships.
Well, Global Sustainable Partnerships was co-founded by myself and my girlfriend, Mary Barth. She is actually from Tanzania. And she invited me after my father's passing to come to Tanzania to grieve, and went on safari and had an epiphany on safari. And so we saw that there was a need for children to have access to clean and safe drinking water. And as a result, we came back and we started doing our research, and we realized that there were a lot of people in the villages who travel, especially women, up to 20 miles round trip to get water for their families, for their animals, and most of that water is contaminated. So it really is a very serious problem, because even though these rivers and streams are very vital to these communities, they're also a source of diseases and sicknesses.
Yeah, and it's just amazing the distance that they have to go. In many cases, like in Mali and Niger and places, they're really going place to place for mud. There's not even hardly any water in that. It's just kind of moist earth, and they're trying to extract what little bit of moisture that's in there. It's just absolutely incredible. But as a female, you have a strong business background, but yet you've developed this very viable nonprofit. So why would a strong businesswoman be going into the nonprofit sphere?
Well, I think I've always been that person, and I grew up with a family of people who looked out for other people. We were always taught to pass it forward, and so when I saw the need, I said that I need to do something. And these children were so beautiful, and just to see those beautiful faces and to see how grateful they are for the help that we're giving them is just life-changing.
Now, there's a special story about this photograph that we have right here. Do you want to share that special story?
I do. The very first school I went to, the kids started running and screaming because they saw me. So
they're going in the opposite direction, not running toward you, but going away, yes.
So I basically was going to start running and screaming too, because I didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden, this little boy came over to me, and he reached out his hand and said, "Shikamo dada," in Kiswahili, which means welcome or hello, auntie. And the minute he did that, I reached out my hand and I said, "Asante sana, my love." And all the kids surrounded me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, they're surrounding me with love." And so I knew at that point that that's where I was supposed to be.
That was really your answer, and this is absolutely a fantastic photograph. These are some of the communities that you're working in, and you're focused on Tanzania. Why Tanzania, and why the African continent?
Tanzania, like I said before, was the place that I went to grieve, and so it has a very special place for me. I saw the need there, and so I thought I would start there. I had a great friend who's from there, and her family's from there, so it's always wonderful to have people who live in the community who can also support you as well. And that's why partnerships is such a really big piece of who we are, is because you have to make sure that you create partnerships with people who are trusted within these communities.
Yeah, and that's really, really very important. And I know your focus is on water, and you're going through the schools, the public health clinics, also with individuals within the community, the churches, communities of faith, and within the family. So why the special focus on water in Tanzania?
Well, when I saw those children walking in the middle of the Serengeti, and we had been on safari for hours and hours, and we were in the middle of lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and I saw no water source, and then I found out that these children were walking miles and miles to go fetch water for their oxen and for their families. When I found out that these water sources were so contaminated, a lot of the kids didn't make it back because the water was so contaminated that these poor children basically die from just dehydration in a very short period of time.
Or they die from actually drinking the water
Exactly.
because of all the bacteria
Absolutely.
and the other foul things that are actually in that water.
Absolutely.
But looking at this broad and deep footprint that you're establishing in Tanzania, how many schools, health clinics, families, even communities of faith are you working with? And then how do you actually make those identifying factors within these organizations there and then expand with the local population?
Well, we started with schools. The former ambassador from Tanzania to the United States, who is now the chief secretary, he introduced me to the regional commissioner, and that's where these partnerships come into play. And so they had a meeting and they invited the district commissioners, who are, I guess, like mayors within those communities, come and to listen about our hydrate water filters. And so I said that I wanted to work directly with the teachers because, for one thing, teachers are trusted leaders in these communities.
Correct.
They work in these schools, they love the children where they work, and they also live beside the beneficiaries. They live and work in these communities. So who best would, to provide like behavioral change initiatives than the teachers? And so that's how I got started. And then plus, I know that if you teach a child something, that they'll go back to their parents.
Yeah. This is the old 4-H model of you teach the parents through the children.
Exactly.
Which is counterintuitive, but it's actually how it really works.
Well, it's worked beautifully because we found that kids don't typically drink 2 liters of water per day, which we wanted them to do. But what they have done is they've taken that water home to their siblings and to their parents so that they can drink clean water.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we're in the schools. And we work with the district education officers, the district commissioner. We work directly with the local leaders. So we've created some really great community support.
So looking at that, I know that you started, in essence, like everyone, you start with a school and then it goes to 2 schools and it goes out from there. And we had a map of the various districts within Tanzania where you're working. Mm-hmm. So is it a rapid multiplication into the schools and into the health clinics and then back into the families, or does it take time for them to learn about what it is you're actually doing and the technology, even though it's very simple, how it really works, and to have faith and trust in it?
Well, we have 138 schools in the Arumeru district, and then we have about another 100 and something schools in the Karatu district. And so we wanted to start with the school so that we can see if people were going to adopt the systems. And so by having the teachers who, like I said, live beside the beneficiaries, they started talking to their community members because they're the ones that are also benefactors of having the clean water at school. So they started saying, well, we want filters in our households. So we conducted a survey of about 100 women throughout 18 villages. And we talked to them about, do they boil their water? Do they not boil their water? How do they provide
filtration, all
those kind of things. And because of deforestation, they don't have money to buy matches, then the children are always sick. And the bad part about that is not only, our children cannot go to school, but the mothers have to stay home to take care of a sick child, which means that they can't go to work to provide for their families.
Yeah, and this is something we don't really think about. You think about malaria, which is really the scourge of Africa and many countries around the globe. And they say for every one child or one person that's ill with malaria, say as an example in the family, it really takes 2 wage earners out of the pool. So you think if you have 3 people that are out of the wage pool, and then you're paying for medicine and you're going to the doctor and all these things, doesn't matter how meager your income is, you still have to go see the doctor if you're really sick.
And that's why I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, and that's what's really important about what you're doing is you're trying to bring clean water. So really you're just flushing out the whole system. for the children and the adults.
We are, and what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to close the gap of recontamination. So we said if we provided clean water for children in schools and then their parents purchased a Hydrate Biosand filter, then we would close that gap of recontamination because the kids would come home and drink clean water. Now, what if the kid got sick and went to a dispensary or a hospital, which is a health clinic? What if they went there and they had no access to clean water? The cycle starts all over again.
Yep.
So we looked at, okay, what would be the best practices of making sure that we cover all of our bases? And that's kind of how we came out with starting with the schools, talking to the parents, and especially the mothers, and then going into the hospitals and talking to the healthcare workers, and then going out into the dispensaries because we typically work in very rural communities.
Yeah, and looking at this is one of the, tell us a little bit about this seminar. We're just about running out of time,
Okay.
Kimberly. It's very quick. Tell us a little bit about this, and then we're going to show this next photograph, which I think is fantastic, and what's happening here.
We
go back to your seminar.
We conduct, they're called community meetings.
Right.
And we call them community meetings because we want the community to come in and see what we're doing. And we've been invited by people within their community, so there is a connection already. And these are teachers and community members, and so we wanted to introduce the filters to them, basically saying, we have now created this great opportunity for the children to get clean water. Would you be interested in possibly having filters within your own household? And by the show of hands, you can see that everybody says yes. They want.
That's an easy answer for that one, isn't it?
That's a very easy answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tell you, this is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
And the whole heartwarming thing about all this is that you're touching real human beings in real communities and real schools and health clinics and communities of faith, and they're discovering it for themselves, and it's fantastic. We're about out of time. What do you see for the growth of Global Sustainable Partners over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
I just know that with the opportunities that we have, we're going to go global.
Well, that's fantastic. And actually you are. You're in the United States and Tanzania.
We are.
Expanding beyond that.
Absolutely.
This is Kimberly L. Fogg. She is the president and founder of Global Sustainable Partnerships. And it's just wonderful the work that you're doing, Kimberly, and thank you for sharing with us. And thank you for being with us as we look at the continent of Africa as a platform for the future as we create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folks, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe for those 1,000 best practices, technology, services, and products, and of course the people that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to a planet that's going to be roughly 9 billion people by 2050, and maybe by the end, and we move into the 22nd century, there may be 12 to 13 billion people on the planet. And so how do we provide everything that's needed, particularly the water and energy and food, for all these people so they actually have an enhanced quality of life so they can enjoy higher levels of education, health care, food, and all the basic infrastructure that makes people real human beings and contributing to their local communities. And I have sitting right beside me is Kimberly L. Fogg. She is the president founder of the Global Sustainable Partnerships, GSP it's called, and she's actually working on all these things. And Kimberly, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I tell you, it's really exciting what it is that you're doing. But just like in your name, the Global Sustainable Partnerships, GSP, tell us a little bit about the background of that, but really the focus on why partnerships as part of your name and also the vision and mission of GSP.
Well, the reason that we have partnerships is because I think that we can create better opportunities if we have people from different walks of life or different backgrounds helping with trying to help with a need. And for example, we've got great partnerships in Bristol-Myers Squibb, we've got great partnerships with Airlink, we've got great partnerships with other people. So without them, then we wouldn't be able to do the work that we're doing because they help support us so that we can go out into these communities. And our mission basically is to provide access to clean and safe drinking water for children and their families. And now we're expanding into households because we realized that the need was so great and that we needed to make sure that we were going to try to help healthier communities.
Yeah, and looking at the African continent, it's soon to be 1 billion people on the continent, 54 countries. Now it's in 850, 870 million and growing at a very rapid rate. And yet, if you look around the globe, it's almost 1.5 billion people that don't have access to clean and sometimes even any water whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Majority of those are on the African continent. So your target is right on as far as what it is that you're doing. So you've developed this very inexpensive, special and lightweight water filtration system. Tell us a little bit about that and why did you select this particular kind of technology?
Well, the technology actually was created by Dr. Mance out of Canada, and Triple Quest, which is a company in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I'm from, they're now creating these filters. And the reason why I love this filter is because it's basically used for households. So there's this beautiful quote that I love, and it says, if the millions of women who haul water long distances had faucets by their doors, whole societies could be changed.
And that's absolutely the truth, because you look at 2 to 4 miles out and back,
Absolutely.
6 kilometers, 7 kilometers out and back, and most of it is by the females.
Absolutely.
Takes them out of the school.
It does.
There's all kinds of bad things that happen when they're out gathering the water and the fuel and other things, and so it's very impressive, Kimberly, what it is that you're doing.
Thank
and
you.
to have something that's this simple but yet works so beautifully is just an incredible asset to Tanzania, but also the whole world. So it's really wonderful. You've got all these lined up. I don't know if the color of the buckets have anything to do, so share a little bit about this.
They do. Everything that we do, we try to make it color-coded so that, for example, if you are taking contaminated water out of a stream, out of a faucet, whatever, we don't want you to use that same container to receive your clean water. So we ask the schools to make sure that they have designated buckets so that they know that, for example, the green buckets are for receiving dirty water and the blue buckets are to receive the clean water. So, but as you can see, those are orange buckets because that's what they had. But they know that those orange buckets are designated to take the clean water.
Yeah, and lining this up, and this is I think one of the teachers you have, and it's amazing the pride and the energy that they have to actually share this technology and make sure that not only are the children involved, but also the parents, but also the greater community as well. So when you're in these communities, how do you actually expand this message, or just by having clean water, it expands on its own?
Well, I think we have a great staff. We have an amazing country manager, and we have 4 gentlemen that are also part of our staff. And so they're part of the community. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful thing about our project, is because I think we've created this community of trust. They drink the water, they know it's clean, they go and tell their friends and family. The teachers are drinking the water, the students are drinking the water. So I think because the whole community is now very well versed now on the filters, because I think we do a really great job of not only just talking to people about the filters, but we also we teach them how to build their own filters, which creates success and sustainability.
And also new green jobs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's our goal. Eventually, we want to try to make sure that we have, and especially women, we want to make sure that they will be able to perhaps build filters so that they can sell them to villages, in other areas. Mm-hmm. And then that way, that'll create more income for their families.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing too. If you look at females, I've been in 84 different countries, and I've been in 60 developing nations, and women really are the backbone as far as the economy is concerned, taking care of the communities, and of course they have direct contact with not only the children but also with the elders, so they're the bridge between this whole community. And it looks like that you've actually really tapped in very nicely to this energy, but also this brain trust that exists in every community, regardless of educational background. These are very wise, very smart people there.
They really
are. And they've survived against many, many different odds. What kind of skills does it take? You're one person, one Kimberly Fogg, and then you're now creating dozens and actually hundreds of others now through the schools, the health clinics, communities of faith. So what are you looking for? What special thing do we need, among all of these ladies within these various communities, so that this project really expands way beyond what you even initially dreamed?
Well, I think that what they really need and what they really love about it is we came to them and asked them what it was that they needed. We didn't try to come and say, oh, we've got these filters and this is going to do this for you, and this is, we really asked them, because guess what? Some mothers didn't need clean water. They needed other things. And so I think that because we created that, we're not coming in to tell you what we think you need, and we're asking you because we're here to help you
in whatever way that may be.
Whatever way that may be. I think that that's why we were able to be so successful, because when you create a circle of trust, we like to call it, I think that really allows people to want to learn. They want the knowledge. They want to take care of their families. They want their children healthy. They don't want sick children. They don't want sick family members.
Yeah. Well, looking at this, I mean, you're a true leader. You have high energy and expectations of yourself and others within the United States, but also you're reaching into Tanzania to do this and then replicate it to other countries on the African continent and other continents around the globe. So as a role model to young girls, teen females, and even the adult women in the community, what kinds of things of communications and understanding needs to be fostered there so that this does become sustainable but also resilient at the same time?
Well, I think we're giving them an opportunity to think about perhaps creating jobs out of this. For example, our filters, we use these bags for the sand and gravel, okay? So what we do is we recycle the bags, and now some of the women are making handbags, purses, backpacks out of the bags, so that when I come back to America, I sell these bags and that money comes back into the community. With the filters, eventually, hopefully we're gonna be able to, the women are gonna start saving enough money so they can purchase filters more than the ones that they have in their own houses, and they can start selling water to their communities, the villages, within those communities.
Yeah, selling water or selling actually the filters themselves.
And selling the filters themselves.
So then other women then can be in their own business within these local communities.
Creating like locally owned, women-owned businesses.
Now, looking at, give us several examples of what you're seeing within the villages, within the schools and the health clinics, of where people now are initiating things on their own. You talked about they're able to sell water, they're able to possibly even sell some of these filters to other people. So what are you seeing where, this new energy, this new dynamic within these communities is, again, going beyond the initial vision or mission or dream that you had, and all of a sudden you become even more engaged and more excited than you already are?
Yeah, some really exciting things, and the teachers tell us all these things. They're realizing that attendance has gone up. Kids are not as sick as they used to be because they're drinking clean water, which is huge.
Plus they come to school, they get clean water.
Plus they're coming to school, right? Mothers, like I said before, they can go to work and they can provide an income for their families. They're not having to stay home for a sick child. And because they're getting clean water at school and they're getting clean water at home. Other things that are happening now is that we've got churches, we're learning about the filters through other church members who are school teachers.
But where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years?
Gosh, we would just like to expand into other parts in Africa and even Latin America.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Kimberly L. Falk, thank you for being on the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you
Glad
so
to
much,
have you
Dr.
with us.
Sam.
Just
really
like reaching out to
appreciate
that
it.
young man and touching his hand.
Thank you.
President founder of Global Sustainable Partnerships, GSP. Doing absolutely wonderful work, and it's fantastic the energy you're bringing to the African continent and bringing back to the United States as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.